There comes a moment in every life when the sun seems to have forgotten your name. The sky turns its back, and the night settles heavy on your shoulders. Friends grow distant, enemies grow bold, and your own breath betrays you with anxious sighs. In such times, when the weight of being is almost too much to bear, it is not a preacher's sermon or a politician's promise that saves you. It is the Word, the Holy Word, and child, I tell you with no tremble in my voice, Psalm 27 will change your life. There is a holy power in knowing who walks beside you. The kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't boast, doesn't dress in the garments of earthly strength. No, this power is quiet, like the break of dawn slipping across a weary sky. It is calm like the breath of a mother watching her baby sleep. It is sure like the turning of the tide and the coming of the morning. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Those words don't come from someone who has never trembled. They come from the lips of a soul that has been pressed, a heart that has been tested, and a spirit that has walked through the long, dark night and still found the sun. They rise from the mouth of one who has seen the storm, stood in the flood, and still believed in the lighthouse of God's presence. You see, when you say, "The Lord is my light," you are not just speaking metaphor. You are speaking defiance to every shadow that has tried to consume you. You are saying to depression, "You may sit beside me, but you do not own me." You are whispering to anxiety, "You may rise in my chest, but I will not bow to you." You are testifying to every fear that dares to whisper your name, that you have something brighter, something higher, something eternal shining within you. Child, fear is an old thing. It has walked this earth longer than any of us. It has worn many robes: doubt, shame, scarcity, rejection. It will sit at your table, uninvited. It will sleep in your bed, unwelcome. It will dance in your mind and tell you that you are alone, forgotten, destined for ruin. But when you rise and declare that God is your light, you do not just turn on a lamp, you ignite a fire that burns through lies, a fire that reveals the truth, a fire that cannot be extinguished by the winds of worry. That light, oh yes, that light is not like the lights of this world. It is not powered by the grid of circumstance or dependent on the weather of your emotion. God's light shines even when the bank account is empty. It shines when the report is bad, when the job is lost, when the spouse walks away. It shines not because things are good, but so that you can endure when things are not. And when you say, "The Lord is my salvation," you are declaring that your rescue, your hope, your deliverance is not man-made. It's not stitched together by politicians or handed out by fortune. It's not something you earn, but something you receive with open, trembling hands. You are saved not just from the judgment of sin, but from the weight of your past, the regrets that haunt you, and the fears that bind you. You are saved from the idea that you must be your own savior. God is not just a distant deity watching from the balcony of heaven. He is a deliverer who steps into your fire, stands in your flood, and whispers your name in the silence. And when he does, every fear that ever held court in your mind must bow. Because the presence of God is not just comforting, it is authoritative. It speaks, and the wind stills. It moves, and mountains melt. It shows up and fear flees. Yes, whom shall you fear? Not the dark, because he is your light. Not destruction, because he is your salvation. Not tomorrow, because he already stands in it, arms wide, waiting for you. Fear is real. Yeah, it breathes down your neck when you're stepping into the unknown. It knocks when you are on the edge of purpose. It rattles its chains when you are rising into the person God made you to be. But just because fear shows up doesn't mean you have to let it. Just because it knocks doesn't mean you have to open the door. Let it stand out in the cold while you sit at the table of courage, warmed by the fire of faith and fed by the bread of the word. There is a sound that silence makes when it is holy. It is the sound your soul makes when it stands still and knows, really knows that he is God. It is not loud, it is not flashy, but it is immovable. When David wrote those words, he had enemies, real ones, spears and swords and betrayals and blood. He wasn't writing from a palace of peace. He was writing from the battlefield of life, and yet he said, "Whom shall I fear?" He didn't say, "I have no problems." He didn't say, "I feel strong every day." He said, "The Lord is my light. The Lord is my salvation." The Lord is the strength of my life. That my matters, because it's personal. It's not something he heard secondhand. It's not something a preacher told him once. It's not a quote on a wall. It's a testimony, a declaration, a war cry. And if you've ever cried in the night, you know what it means for God to be your light. If you've ever walked through hell and come out praising, you know what it means for him to be your salvation. If you've ever been too tired to keep going but kept going anyway, you know what it means for him to be the strength of your life. So hold that close. Clutch it like a child holds a blanket. Wear it like armor. Sing it like a song that lifts the rafters of your soul. When fear rises, so does faith. When darkness falls, the light shines even brighter. When your knees shake, remember your spirit still stands. And the God who parted seas, who shut lions' mouths, who called life from tombs, is the same God who calls you his own. Fear may visit, but it cannot stay. Because your life, dear one, is lit by the hand of heaven, and no shadow, no matter how long it stretches, can snuff out the flame that God himself has placed within you. Amen. The soul of a person who has walked through the fire is not easily moved by the flicker of a flame. Life will surround you. It will circle you like wolves in the night, and it will growl with the voice of betrayal, loneliness, and despair. There will be days when your back is against the wall and the wall itself feels like it's crumbling. There will be moments when enemies do not just wear the face of strangers, but sit at your own table. Trouble comes, not as a gentle knock, but as a storm breaking open the windows of your calm. But oh, child, let me tell you, there is a truth stronger than trouble. There is a peace that outlives pain. There is a God who will keep you from being shaken even when the ground beneath you trembles. Psalm 27 tells us of that steadfast soul, a soul that cries, "Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear." Now that, my dear, is not the language of the naive. That is the language of the seasoned. That is the voice of a heart that has been surrounded before, a heart that has seen chaos march up to its front door and refused to leave, a heart that has endured the long stare of heartbreak and still chosen to sing, because let me be plain with you. Trouble is not the absence of God. No, sometimes trouble is the evidence of his shaping hand. Sometimes he allows the crowd to gather around you, not to destroy you, but to reveal that you are not made of glass but of granite, that you were never meant to break, you were meant to bend and rise again. When you know who you belong to, the gathering storm does not frighten you. It may move the curtains, it may rattle the doors, but your foundation will not give way, because your roots are deep, planted not in the shallow soil of popularity or praise, but in the unmovable bedrock of God's presence. I have seen days when the sky turned black by noon, when joy felt like a foreign land and my own name sounded strange in my mouth. I have sat in rooms filled with voices and still felt utterly alone, and yet in those very places I discovered the company of a faithful God, a God who does not flee when the crowd turns, a God who steps closer when others back away. You may be surrounded, but you are not forsaken. Life has a way of circling you with confusion. Bad news from the doctor, silence from a friend, bills stacked high like towers, a child gone wayward. Trouble does not ask permission. It comes, but listen, its presence does not mean your fall. You may be surrounded, but you are not shaken, because shaking requires something unstable. And God does not build you with frail bones and weak spirit. No, beloved. He builds you with steel spun from heaven. He builds you with a mind covered by peace and a heart guarded by grace. He builds you with resilience rooted in his promises. David knew what it was to be hunted. He knew the sting of betrayal, the ache of loneliness, the crushing weight of waiting for a promise yet fulfilled. Yet still he said, "My heart shall not fear." Not because the trouble wasn't real, but because he knew something more real. He knew the character of God. He knew that the same hand that created the stars had written his name on its palm. He knew that the God who commands the sea had promised never to leave. What you know determines what you do when the trouble comes. If you know chaos as your master, you will always bow. But if you know Christ as your anchor, you will stand tall even in the middle of the wind. There's a difference, baby, between being attacked and being overcome. Yes, the attacks may come. Yes, the words may be sharp. Yes, the pain may feel unbearable. But when God surrounds the surrounded, you become like the bush that burned and yet was not consumed. You may cry, but your tears do not drown you. You may fall to your knees, but you will rise with stronger legs. You may be pressed on every side, but you are not crushed. Not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. God does not promise to take the trouble away. No, sometimes He allows it to remind you that even in the center of the storm, your soul can be still. Like Jesus sleeping on the boat while the waves tossed and the wind screamed. His rest was not ignorance, it was assurance. That same assurance lives in you when you anchor your heart to Psalm 27. When you believe, not just with your lips but with your life, that though enemies gather you will not tremble. You will not give up your joy, your faith, your praise. Because faith is not proven in peace. Faith is proven in pressure. That's when it shines. When the world expects you to curse but you bless. When they expect you to run but you walk head high, shoulders back, anchored in your God. That's when faith shows itself to be a fire that trouble cannot quench. There will be days when the army around you is made of doubts marching across your mind, shouting that you are not enough, that you won't make it, that you've been forgotten, but the truth stands taller than any lie. You are held, you are loved, you are surrounded, but by grace, not defeat. When the trouble encircles you, remember who else is in the circle. The God of Abraham, the Lion of Judah, the shepherd of your soul. He is not a God who observes from afar. He is a God who steps into the fray, and when He is with you, fear has no throne, and the enemy has no final word. So stand even if your legs shake. Speak even if your voice cracks. Praise even if the tears fall, because the one who walks through the valley with God as their guide walks taller than the mountains that surround them. You may be surrounded, but in the presence of the Almighty you will not be shaken. There comes a time, my dear, when the soul gets tired of running, tired of chasing approval, tired of carrying burdens not meant for its shoulders, tired of the noise, the lights, the hollow applause. And in that weariness, the soul learns to whisper, not with exhaustion but with clarity, one thing I desire, yes, just one. The world will hand you a list. It'll say you need riches, titles, beauty, recognition, a house on the hill, 1,000 followers, and a perfect smile. It will teach you to multitask your blessings and bury your soul beneath busyness. But the Spirit leads you to simplicity. The Spirit leads you home. David, that sweet singer of Israel who had palaces and enemies, who had battles and triumphs, who danced before the Lord and wept in caves, he knew something most of us forget, that in the end there is one thing worth desiring. Not many, not 10, just one. To dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life. To gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and inquire in His temple. That is not the language of religious obligation. That is the song of someone in love, a soul who has tasted every fruit the world had to offer and found it lacking, a heart that has sat in the courts of kings but still longed for the footstool of the King of Kings. To dwell is not to visit, not to pass through on Sunday morning, not to send up a prayer in trouble and disappear in triumph. No, to dwell is to abide, to remain. To pitch your tent in the courts of the Most High and say, this is where I live now, this is home. You see, home isn't just a place, it's a presence. And the presence of God, oh child, it is more than enough. It is rest when your bed brings no comfort. It is peace when your thoughts are a storm. It is warmth when the world grows cold. It is a holy hush when life tries to drown you in noise. There are moments in this journey when everything gets stripped away. The makeup fades. The friends grow silent, the money dries up, the smile cracks, and in that raw, aching stillness you find the presence of God like a well in the wilderness, deep, cool, life-giving, and you drink not with manners but with desperation. You drink because it's the only thing keeping your soul alive. David wasn't seeking a perfect life, he was seeking a perfect place. A place where God's voice didn't echo from a distance but whispered close enough to breathe on his face. A place where worship wasn't a performance but a posture. Where questions could be asked and tears could be shed and the soul could stretch out and simply, have you ever wanted that? Not another miracle, not another blessing, but just him, his nearness, his beauty, his heart. That's what David was after, and that's what the Spirit is stirring in you now. We live in a time where everything pulls us outward. Notifications, expectations, constant connection with people, and disconnection from ourselves. But the true power of Psalm 27 is in its call back inward, back to the sanctuary, back to the quiet, back to the place where it's just you and God, and that is more than enough. Because in that presence things shift. Not always the situation, but always the soul. You come into His presence burdened and you leave lighter. You come angry and you leave softened. You come fearful and you leave brave. Not because the storm has ceased, but because your anchor has held. Because the light within you has grown stronger than the darkness around you. And beauty. Oh, what a word that is. David wanted to behold the beauty of the Lord. Not the might, not just the miracles, but the beauty. Because God is not only powerful, He is also beautiful. His presence is not only thunder, it is music. Not only fire, it is fragrance. When you really see Him, not through theology alone but through intimacy, your heart begins to ache in a new way, not with pain but with longing, a holy homesickness that says, I must be where you are. This is why some people can lose everything and still have peace, because their one thing remains. They may bury loved ones, see dreams die, walk through fire, but their anchor is not in what is seen. Their treasure is not made of silver. Their joy is not rented by circumstance. It is rooted in that one desire to dwell. And I say to you, as one who has wept and worshipped, who has been lifted and brought low, nothing in this world satisfies like God's presence. You can travel the world, lie in silk sheets, sit in corner offices, but without Him it is hollow. Yet if He is with you, even a prison becomes a sanctuary. A desert becomes a garden. A storm becomes a dance. To inquire in His temple, oh, what a sacred thing that is. To ask Him questions, not like a student demanding answers, but like a child crawling into a father's lap, just to hear His voice. To say, Father, I don't understand, but I trust you. Teach me, hold me, speak. Because when you make His presence your priority, everything else falls into its place, or it falls away, and you learn that you never needed it after all. So let the world chase its many things. Let the masses reach for the temporary. But let your heart be, let your soul rise like incense, and let your voice declare, one thing I desire, one thing I seek, to dwell in your house, to gaze on your beauty, to be near you all the days of my life, not because it's easy, but because it's eternal, not because it's popular, but because it's, not because it's profitable, but because it is home. And once the soul finds home in God, it will never be content to live anywhere else again. Amen. There is something sacred, something holy about the act of waiting. In a world that moves with the speed of machines and the impatience of the hungry, waiting feels like weakness. But oh, my dear, don't let the world fool you. Waiting on God is not weakness. It is worship. Waiting is not wasting time. No. Waiting is trusting time to the hands of the one who wrote it. We are taught to rush, to hustle, to chase what we think we need. We're told that if it doesn't happen now, it won't happen at all. But child, let me tell you something eternal. What God has for you will not miss you, and what passes you by was never meant to stay. Psalm 27 says, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and He shall strengthen your heart. That is not just poetry, that is a promise. It's a whisper from heaven telling you that even in the silence God is working. Even in the stillness He is shaping. Even when nothing moves, everything is being prepared for the exact right moment. I've learned that God is not in a hurry, and we must not be either. You see, a seed does not become a tree overnight. It rests beneath the soil where no eyes can see, where no hands can help, and it lets God do what only He can do in the dark. And so it is with you. If you are in the season of silence, if the ground around you seems still, if the prayers feel unanswered, do not despair. You are not being forgotten. You are being formed. There are days when the ache of waiting wraps around your chest like cold hands. Days when hope feels far and faith feels like an echo. But in those moments the Spirit comes close. He leans in, not with the noise of thunder, but with the stillness of a sunrise, and says, I am still here. Don't give up now, strength is coming. There is something powerful about waiting that makes the soul stronger than muscle, more enduring than stone. Because while the world celebrates instant victory, God celebrates lasting transformation. Sometimes God delays what we want so He can give us what we truly need. And sometimes He slows the process because He's walking with us in the waiting. And He does not want to miss a single step with His beloved child. You might think that rising means doing more, becoming more, achieving more. But let me offer you a different kind of rise. The kind that happens after you've cried and wiped your tears. The kind that happens after you've bent low in prayer and found your strength again. The kind that happens not with noise but with grace. Rising is not about impressing people. Rising is about aligning with purpose. Those who wait on God, they are the ones who mount up with wings like eagles, not like pigeons flapping in fear. Not like chickens scratching in the dirt, but like eagles soaring above what once tried to drown them. There is a kind of strength that only comes from surrender, a kind of height that only comes when you stop climbing and start trusting. Have you ever seen an eagle fly? It doesn't flap like it's afraid to fall. It spreads its wings and lets the wind carry it. And the wind, my darling, is the presence of God. So be still, stretch wide your faith. Stop trying to rush into doors that haven't been opened. Stop begging for things that God is still refining. You were never meant to force your way through life. You were meant to glide on His grace. The waiting season is the making season. It's where your roots grow deep. It's where your trust is tested. It's where your voice becomes a prayer and your breath becomes a praise. It's where God whispers who you are when the world forgets your name. And when the time is right, and it always is, He will lift you. Not with the applause of men, but with the approval of heaven. Not with shallow blessings, but with eternal purpose. You will rise not just in success, but in strength. Not just in victory, but in vision. You will rise because God cannot lie, and His word has promised that those who wait on Him will never be put to shame. You don't have to understand the when, you just have to believe in the who, and He, the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. He will carry you through. He is not just the God of answered prayers. He is the God of waiting rooms, of midnight tears, of unanswered questions. And in those places He is no less good, He is no less God. Let patience have its perfect work in you. You are not falling behind. You are being prepared. Your pace is not too slow. God is walking with you, and what feels like delay is often divine protection. What feels like silence is often God writing your next chapter with His own holy hand. So wait, but wait with courage, wait with hope, wait with expectation, and while you wait, worship. While you wait, serve. While you wait, love. While you wait, breathe in the truth that God is not done with you yet. This valley you're walking through, it's not your end, it's your stretching place. This quiet season, it's not your punishment, it's your preparation. And this moment of stillness, it's not the absence of movement, it's the presence of divine timing. When you wait on God, you're not falling behind, you're being set apart. And when you rise, and yes, you will rise, it won't be because you forced your way forward. It will be because God lifted you in the fullness of His time, with the fullness of His strength, and placed you exactly where He destined you to be. So hold your head high even in the waiting. Stand tall, even in the silence. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are in the hands of the one who knows when to say now. And when He says it, nothing on earth can stop your rise.
There is a sacred truth, quiet as the dawn, firm as the mountain, yet so often forgotten in the rush of life. You are never alone, not in your brightest hour, and certainly not in your darkest night. Never alone, not when you're standing on the stage, and not when you're curled beneath the weight of sorrow. Never alone, not even when the phone doesn't ring, when the door doesn't open, when the tears fall in secret and nobody sees. You may feel alone. Yes, you may walk through days that echo with silence and nights that seem to stretch without end. You may sit at tables where love once dwelled and find only shadows. But my dear, feeling alone and being alone are not the same. Because there is a presence soft and holy that walks with you. There is a God, mighty and gentle, who stands beside you when others step away. A God who sees what others cannot, hears what you will not say, and stays when everything else crumbles. Oh, beloved, that's what Psalm 27 teaches us. David, the shepherd king, the giant slayer, the man after God's own heart, he knew what it meant to walk through the valley of fear. He knew what it meant to be hunted, hated, haunted by the failures of his own flesh. And yet through every trial, every betrayal, every lonely cave and battlefield, David declared with the strength of a lion and the tenderness of a lamb, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." Now that's not a line you speak lightly. That's the cry of someone who's been left, someone who's watched people walk away, someone who's faced rejection, not just from enemies but from family. Yet even in that place, especially in that place, David found a truth greater than human affection. God does not abandon his own. He doesn't. The world will tell you to measure your worth by who stays in your life. But child, let me tell you, the most precious people can leave. They can break promises. They can grow tired, distracted, or cold. And when they do, the enemy of your soul will whisper, "You are alone," but that is a lie. For there is one who knit you together in your mother's womb. One who knew your name before the world did. One who walked with you through every moment you thought no one cared. No one saw, no one understood. He saw, he knew, he wept with you. And he never left. When the pain was too deep to speak, he sat beside you in silence. When the betrayal cut like a blade, he held you while you bled. When the world moved on too fast, he stayed with you in the stillness. You see, we want God to show up with trumpets and thunder, with miracles and marvels. But often he comes as a whisper, a peace that doesn't make sense, a strength that rises from nowhere, a comfort that wraps around your heart like warm hands on a winter's night. He doesn't always change the situation, no. But he changes you in the middle of it. And that is enough. There is something holy in walking through the fire and knowing you are not burned. Because you are not alone. There is something sacred about waking up each morning and saying, "I don't know what this day holds, but I know who holds me." God is not He is not sitting high and looking low, too busy for your burdens or too grand for your grief. He is Emmanuel, God with us. Not just in church pews or golden cathedrals, not just in shouted hallelujahs or polished prayers, but in your kitchen, in your car, in your hospital room, in your prison cell, in your quiet aching soul. He is with you. When the baby won't stop crying and your strength is gone, he is with you. When the bills stack high and the job slips away, he is with you. When the diagnosis comes and fear tightens its grip, he is with you. When everyone celebrates and no one sees your struggle, he is with you. Even now, as you read these words, maybe wondering if anyone understands what you've been carrying, I tell you with the authority of heaven, God knows. And he has not left. He has never taken his eyes off you. You are the apple of his eye, the joy of his heart, the reason he stretched out his arms on a cruel cross and bore the weight of sin, not just for a crowd, but for you. Not just for the righteous, but for the broken. Not just for the strong, but for the weary. He walks with you in your wilderness. He sings over you in your sorrow. He strengthens you in your stillness. And in those moments when you feel most unseen, most unworthy, most unloved, lean in. Not into fear, not into despair, but into the truth. The truth that the God who holds galaxies also holds your hand. The truth that the one who calmed the sea can calm your soul. The truth that you are not just surviving. You are being carried. So stand tall even when you tremble. Lift your head even when tears fall. Speak life over your days even when death tries to steal your hope. Because you are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. The same God who walked with David walks with you. The same Spirit that comforted him in caves is comforting you now. So whisper it when your voice shakes. Sing it when your strength returns. Shout it when you stand in victory. I am not alone, God is with me. And that truth, that unshakable, eternal, heaven-sent truth, will carry you through every storm, every shadow, every silence, all the way home.